Ah yes, the beautiful Hollow Knight pogo. Perfect for flowing seamlessly through enemies, attacking bosses from their blind spots, and even breaking into later game areas early. Truly, it's an all-around spectacular attack. After mastering the move in Hollow Knight, I was very excited to bring that mastery over to Silksong. I didn't even know that was possible. That's it. I'm figuring this out. The beginning of the game works out great for us, since pogoing is actually the fastest way to move until we learn how to sprint later on. And to keep myself honest, I've even taped my controller so that I only can pogo. This doesn't work, the tape keeps coming off. But okay, whatever. Surely I'm capable of just remembering to press down, so we're fine. We start by heading through Bone Bottom and into the Marrow. And I should note, by the way, that for this challenge, any permanent progress that we make has to be with pogos, so dumb mistakes like this one do count against me and require a reset. But dumb mistakes aside, our good luck continues through the Marrow, as we can skip past some more areas with another pogo. OMG, it's like the game was designed for this challenge. This skip leads us directly into the room where we meet Shakira for the first time, whose dulcet tones are designed to lull us into a sense of complacency where we don't even want to continue our journey. But we're able to resist the temptation and head directly through her room and quickly on to grab the Silk Spear ability that we won't be able to use, and then go on to fight the Bell Beast. If you're curious about the strategy for this fight, we basically just want to dodge the attacks that she throws out and hit her with our own attacks whenever we can, until eventually she dies. The next area does pose a risk for this challenge, as these helmeted enemies are actually immune to our down pogo. But fortunately, all of them can be skipped, and the only enemies we actually have to fight have nice soft mushy heads that pop easily underfoot like a cherry tomato with its whole life ahead of it. This gets us the ability to sprint and brings us back to Lace, who I initially thought might pose a bit of a challenge given that her smaller frame could make her harder to target, but fortunately for us, this girl has a bigger forehead than Super TF, so really it's no problem. The next thing we have to do is go pick up this quest to unlock the float ability. Then we head over to the right to start collecting spines off of these guys. I do accidentally sideswipe one of the spines, and that does represent permanent progress, meaning I have to reset, but I should mention now that I've been periodically setting save states at benches, so I won't need to replay the whole game. So after a little bit of backtracking, we're back over and... okay. Downswipes don't collect spines, I guess. Am I going crazy? This is insane. Why would this be in the game? Why has nobody else realized this? Why wouldn't it work? Is this how the challenge is gonna end? Don't panic. Okay, there's one more enemy up here next to a bomb rock. There's a chance. Maybe we can get the enemy to shoot a spine down onto this platform, then spend 20 minutes trying to blow it up with a bomb that we land on the platform only one time the entire time we try. And if we keep doing that, then maybe... Oh, what's that? Oh, I didn't go pick up the quest again after I reloaded the save state? I went to the bathroom, and when I came back I forgot to actually grab the quest, so I've been spending the last 20 minutes acting like an idiot doing something that should have been really easy to do the first time around. This entire affair has made me seem really stupid. Okay. After easily and painlessly grabbing the Drifter's Cloak, we're off to fight the fourth chorus. Pogos are possible in this fight, but since there aren't any walls locking us into it, it's easier to just skip the fight entirely by sprint dashing off the side, healing, and then floating and dashing out of the arena. This brings us upwards to our next stop, Greymore. Moorwing is the boss that we have to face next. In a lot of playthroughs, this boss would represent the first big step up in terms of difficulty, but for this challenge in particular, the boss is actually perfect, as its relatively exposed head makes it perfect for chaining together multiple pogos. With the bird down, we can head through Bellheart into the Shell Wheel. Sister Splinter is the boss here, and since she hangs from the ceiling, you might think she's going to be a problem, and who am I kidding? If you're watching this, you almost certainly already know there's a skip past her by taunting this enemy to get a pogo directly up through some enemies to get to the wall cling ability quickly. We're through. From here, we're led almost directly into the next boss fight against Widow. Widow's a pretty great boss fight in this challenge, though there's not a lot to say about her. She attacks quickly, but with enough obvious pogo windows to still feel like we can stay on the offensive, and while the fight isn't anything special in terms of tactics, it's the first fight that really had me feeling like I was really starting to master the pogo. After she goes down, the next part of the run is pretty close to normal. We can get a needle upgrade in Bellheart, one of the only permanent combat upgrades we can get in this run, and then we go back through Greymore and take this secret exit through Sinner's Road to go to the Mist. Once we get through that and to the exhaust organ, we hit our last Act 1 obstacle, Phantom. Where Lace ended up being a relatively easy target to hit, Phantom actually does have a smaller frame, as you can see from this comparison. But the needle upgrade helps a lot, plus I realized I had a way to get more in the mindset of this challenge. With Phantom down, we have access to Act 2. And look, I know what you're gonna say. Oh, but actually you had to parry Phantom to beat the fight, so this run is technically invalid. Even though you know and I know that this is just a glorified cutscene that shouldn't count, we have to go through the whole rigmarole of pretending that this one QuickTime event invalidates the whole run. So whatever. I did go this way in the actual run, but for the sake of the pedants, I went back later and fought the last judge just to prove it was possible. And beat this gauntlet, which was somehow so much harder than the judge. So now we've made it to... Yes. Thank you, game. Anyway, our first stop is to take care of the Cogwork Dancers. These robots have separate health bars, but you only need to beat one to end each phase. Therefore, the best strategy is to keep hitting just one of the two of them, but unfortunately I am an idiot. Still though, we do manage to get past them using the same old strategy of doing exactly what the title of this video says. But after that fight, we do finally see something that could represent a real blocker. It might be possible to hit this wheel repeatedly and fast enough to build the bench, but I could never move fast enough to get it. Fortunately, we don't need this checkpoint, at least not yet, and so we can move on to start collecting the 3 song parts that we need to beat Act 2. The first of these is through the Whispering Vaults, where there's also a pale oil that should let us upgrade our nail again. This oil is hidden behind a box sliding puzzle, and it might seem like it's impossible for us to slide any of the boxes upwards given that we can only hit downwards, but if you're precise and hit the boxes just in the corner, then you can still get them to move upwards even by using pogos. So as long as the oil isn't trapped behind a box whose corners are totally inaccessible to us, we can still... Oh. So fine. We're a little weaker than expected going into the but it's okay. We can still take some time to gear up by grabbing an extra mask, plus getting the fractured mask off of this dumb dead bug who I do not respect. Personally, I've never been that big of a fan of Trobios, since the red explosions can overlap in a way that's a little bit hard to see, but at least for this challenge, Trobios' tornado attack gives us a good window to get some pogos in. We still have to be careful though, since the hitbox for the attack is bigger than it seems, and can still grab you if you aren't being precise. I mean, just look at it. So anyway, eventually he goes... Anytime now. He eventually goes down, and we can move on to go get the claw line, which is a very useful tool for getting around, but does pose a problem for this challenge where we definitely can't use it to deal damage. So for most situations where we would need to platform off of enemies using the claw line, we'll have to find a way to get above them and then pogo off their heads instead. Fortunately, that's doable in this first room, and we can exit the area pretty easily and go get the first of the 3 parts of the song that we need to finish the game. Once we have that, we can go into the Cogwork Core to get the second piece of the song, and fortunately this one's pretty easy. This is a platforming gauntlet that already relies on pogoing to get through, and the claw line is only needed on these rings, which don't count as hitting enemies. So that leaves us with what you might have already predicted is the hardest part of the run, the High Halls Gauntlet. And yeah, this will suck. After some practice, I do start to get more consistent, but it's clear we're going to need some additional help here. So let's look at our options. Our first option is to get help from an NPC, namely Garment or Shakira, who we can summon into the gauntlet to fight with us. But they both disgracefully fight without pogos, so it's not an option for us. We could also get the Plasmium File to get extra health, and honestly I could have done that, but I decided that this move was a little too close to an attack, so just to be safe I've decided to ban that as well. I could do the Gourmand questline to get a different oil to upgrade my nail, but the problem with that is that I'd have to put this thing on my screen, so obviously that won't work either. Lastly, we could try to go to Mount Fae and get the Fae Down Cloak to be able to double jump. Learning to double jump wouldn't directly increase the amount of damage that we can do, but it would make it a lot easier to get in position to hit some of these flying enemies, and in addition to that, it gives us access to this secret area where we can turn off the spider enemies entirely. But we're stumped here too, since the vast majority of the platforming we need to do is into enemies and not rings. But hold on, what did I say before? We'll have to find a way to get above them and then pogo off their heads instead. Okay, but is that going to be possible for us to do the entire way up Mount Fae to get the double jump? Well, the good news is that somebody else already figured out that it's possible to get the double jump without using the claw line at all, And we do have access to it as long as we don't hit an enemy, so it should be even easier for us. The downside is that the video that explains how to do it uses a different crest than us, where the pogo starts a little bit higher. So if we ever need that extra height to get a pogo off an enemy, we might be screwed. But whatever, I figured I should at least try. With the claw line for extra horizontal distance, how hard could it be? Yeah, pretty hard. Okay, let's break down what we have to do. We start by gliding and pogoing into this enemy to make it up to the first ring. We continue as normal to here and pogo off the spikes and across these enemies, climbing the wall above the final enemy to get into the next room. We continue through this room normally, making sure to break this one breakable wall with pogos. Glide or claw line above these enemies to skip directly to the ring here. Fall into the water by accident afterwards, but use your silk to claw line across anyway. This brings us to the first bench, which, fortunately, has just enough nearby rosaries to afford. Now for the hard stuff. Fill up a little extra silk in this room, then bounce off of these spikes to claw line directly onto the first gondola car. Claw line again to this hook and as far up the mountain as you can get, then get a blister on your thumb by rapidly and repeatedly jump dashing to slowly gain height. Use the silk that you left there conveniently by dying to claw line between these two enemies, pogoing off one and then damage boosting off the other to get just enough height to pogo onto the next gondola car. You can farm this enemy for silk to heal back up if you want to. Get over the next set of spikes and dash and float as soon as possible to have enough height to pogo off of this enemy. Damage boost again if you need to, in my case I needed to multiple times, so that we can finally make it to the top of this cliff where we're faced with wonderful news. The next room is just as hard as this. In fact, because these rooms are so hard back to back, this was the one spot in the run that I let myself use a save state even outside of a bench. But that's it, it's the only time. Everybody knows you get one freebie. Please let me have this, I wasn't lying about the thumb blister. After falling down in the next room, jump off the wall to claw line between each of these enemies with enough vertical space to get a pogo off of them. Note that this may be impossible on many attempts, since the exact height that they're flying at is somewhat random every time you come in. But if you get an arrangement where each of the first three is low enough for a claw line and pogo, you can dash up these temporary walls and jump off their corners right before they break to barely dodge the ceiling and pogo off of one final enemy and out of the room. Carefully navigate through one more straightforward room, and then congratulations, we've made it from here to here. Fortunately though, that was the hardest part. From here we're able to claw line straight across the gap and damage boost off of one final enemy to make it up to another bench. There is one more slightly tricky jump into the wind to get a pogo off of this enemy, and then there's another slightly tricky jump into the wind to get a pogo off of this enemy, and then of course there's this set of slightly tricky jumps into the wind to get a pogo off of some more enemies. But with that, we've made it to the top of Mount Faye, and we can finally do this. Pretty exciting, right? Well, yes, it is exciting, because now we get to go turn off the Claw Maidens.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are maidenless.
To do that, we'll have to push this cart over from against the wall, except Pogo doesn't move it. Well, that's stupid. Team Cherry, fix this. It's okay, though. We can use the claw line to push it instead. And then in the next room, all we have to do is destroy a breakable ceiling. What the hell, Team Cherry? Jerks. It's okay again, though. If we claw line from this corner, avoiding enemies, we can still break the ceiling and enter into the room to destroy the strings that control the Claw Maidens. Hey, that kind of looks like you just made permanent progress without using the pogo. Shut up! So without those enemies bothering us, have we gotten better at the gauntlet? Oh yeah, we have. Yes. Yep. For sure. We have improved. Yes, indeed. This is growth. Totally. Yes. Yeah, this keeps going on for a while. But eventually, after a lot of effort, this happens. Oh. Thank God. That was so hard. With that task done, we can go pick up the conductor's melody and finally make it to the end of the game, which at this point is mostly just a victory lap. We celebrate with a little bit of music. And then it's just boss fights. Lace 2 goes down just as easily as the first time, cause, you know, big target. Then all that's left is to take care of... Yes, her, thank you. And with one final pogo, GMS goes down, and we've beaten Silksong using only the Hunter Crest pogo. Was it worth it? No.
Hi, I'm Stir-Fry Duck Party. You might recognize me from this video that you're currently watching. I'm trying to stream on Twitch on Sundays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, mainly because I want to get into horror games, but I'm too scared, and I need somebody there to tell me that it's all going to be okay and it's not real and it can't hurt me. So swing by at 6 p.m. Eastern for that. Also, please like and subscribe on this video. I'll keep releasing more of these. It's fun.